Welcome, everybody, to the Just Add Bourbon podcast. I'm Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm Dawn Giesecke.
And I'm J.D. Damon.
And it is another beautiful Sunday here in the hills of Eastern Kentucky. And guys, we got a fun show since Dawn showed up last week, and we had so much fun, we decided to bring her back this week. And I realized, JD, just now that I've been saying her last name wrong. I was saying Giesecke. And so, Dawn, I apologize. Say it again for me.
It's Giesecke.
Giesecke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to remember that. I can't say.
It doesn't matter.
I have that. I'm just going to call you Dawn. Is that okay?
Yeah, just call me Dawn. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. So, no, we've got a lot of fun topics, guys, this week. So, JD, how was your week, brother? What did you get into this week?
Oh, man, you know how my week's been. I've been working, slaving at the grind, man. I did finish up 3 books this week, though, which I'm pretty happy about. I finished up Tightrope, Americans Reaching for Hope. I finished up, which was a really good book. I really enjoyed, getting into it's rotated. It's centered around these kids that all grew up on the same school bus. And they talked about how their struggles went, how their life went, and, what propelled them to success or what dragged them down to failure. It was a really, really interesting book. I read The Glass House, which is like a educated, hillbilly elegy kind of book. But it takes place largely over in Welch, West Virginia, which is like 50 miles from here. And it's really, really interesting, And what was the other book I finished? I thought I may have talked about that already last week. I'm drawing a blank, but anyway, too many books going on. I'm starting back on Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, and man, I've had a good time, had a good week, and I'm excited. I'm fired up. Me and Dawn's been texting all week, talking about subjects. It's like, man, we got to figure out what we're going to talk about because we can't talk about 1,700 things.
I know, right?
But Dawn, how was your week?
I've had a good week.
It was good. I had to take Brooklyn home to the orthodontist on Thursday and took Mom with me. So we went down there, hung out for a couple days, and checked in on Reagan. Reagan had a fashion show. The boys are off doing their thing, and then came up and went to the Hill reunion. That's my mom. My mom's maiden name's Hill. So we went to the Hill family reunion in Ohio, got to see everybody. It was good to have a little bit of normalcy back. So pretty good week. I'm always blessed.
No, that's good. That's good. Does anybody, JD, you said they rode the school. Does anybody ride the school bus anymore? Like, I have to take my kids to school every day. But I rode the school bus every day up until the time that I actually got my driver's license. Does anybody even ride the school bus?
I think that was always a thing, man. But I think, it became a stigma, to have to ride the school bus. But my mom didn't care a bit. You rode the school bus. You wouldn't get up at 7 o'clock driving to school. You ride the bus. That's all it was. I think these kids get away with a lot more these days, man, than we did.
I think you're right, because, I rode the school bus every single day of my life until I could drive. And then once I could drive, then I picked up Dina Castles, a friend of mine lived right down the road, and I took my sister to school. And, I never rode it after that, but I rode it every day up until that point. I don't know why that hit me, but just when you said that, I was like, is it ride the school bus?
It's different. In Tennessee, we rode it. Well, the kids rode it through elementary school. Everybody rides them down there because the traffic is too much. Without school, it's too much. It's just impossible. So everybody rode the school buses in elementary school. But now, once you hit middle school, it starts getting to where they want to complain and shuffle around. But I rode it.
Yeah. These pickup lines, though, these pickup lines are just the craziest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's insane.
People get in line at 1:45 for a 3:30 let out.
Right. Try doing that in an elementary school that has 1,000 kids in it. So
no.
Yeah, that's right. So we're 2 miles from the elementary school, and it took 45 minutes. So
yeah, that's crazy. No, even, because I always take them to school in the mornings. I will drive and drop them off. Now that Amy's at the high school, Ashton rides to the high school with her, but I take Addison to school, which we all kind of take turns. It's kind of a, whoever the kids want to, and they literally pick, you're taking me to school this morning. No, this person's, I don't know. It's insane. Our kids are spoiled. So
how was your week, man?
Well, it was good. It's like always, man, the grind. I was just working and got to go watch Gunner play a little all-star baseball. The dude is going to be a stud. He threw a kid out from the outfield at third base, and it was awesome. I got really excited. So it's going to be fun getting to watch him, kind of grow up. So that was fun for me. Today was Amy's dad's birthday, so we went over there, and I grilled out, and then I took a nap. and got up and said, all right, let's go home and do the podcast. So, yeah. All right. So let's start jumping into these topics. I've got literally, Dawn gave me like 22 topics. So we're going to.
Hey.
I'm blaming it on Dawn J.D. It's all her fault. She's the new one here.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, she's the new one here. We're going to blame everything on her.
That's right.
So,
well, I'm done to cover
it's so good to have Dawn around.
I can't just blame JD, right? It's your fault. No. All right, so guys, remember, you can comment. We want you to comment, be a part of this conversation that we're getting ready to have over the next 45 minutes to 55 minutes. So our first topic, guys, this week is something local, some new industry, the agriculture industry coming to Eastern Kentucky, here literally probably about 5 miles from where I live, and that they call it Appalachia, basically an apple orchard. And it's my understanding that there's been distribution deals already signed, to sell these apples and distribute. It will require several manual labor type jobs. And so as far as jobs are concerned in a different industry, I think that was a good thing. Dawn, let's start with you. You heard about Appalachia.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, one thing, the name is way too cute. So
Yeah,
I'm loving the name. It's always exciting to see new business ideas come into the region. So I'm excited about that. I want to hear more about what kind of fruit is being grown. I know everybody's just like, oh, it's apples. Well, there's difference between a natural apple, GMO apples, kind of like these mutant apples. So I want to know what kind of fruit we're growing, but that's just me personally. I try to eat more natural food, things that don't have tons of synthetic fertilizers, things of that nature. So I am interested in that. I want to make sure that we're producing good fruit, and that's what we're feeding our people. That's questions that we should have with anything, no matter where we buy it, whether it's here or not.
So like when I was a kid growing up, really where my house is right now, where my grandmother's house was, and we had apple trees here. And they were just apple trees. I don't recall ever fertilized. They were just here. That's all I know is they were here. Me and my granny used to go out and pick apples.
Right.
And then we would come back. She would make apple pies. So what you're telling me is that when you mass produce food like this, if you're mass growing food,
yes,
that there are different chemicals and different things that can be.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, being living in Tennessee, University of Tennessee has one of the best agriculture schools in the nation. So I hear a ton about ag, all kinds, right? So when you have an apple tree that you're referring to, Jimmy, those are usually 3 to 6 years as they grow before they start harvesting fruit or blooming fruit. Now I think it's a matter of like months. So I don't know if that's what they're doing at Appalachia, so I can't comment on that. I'm just saying that I'm curious on if that's the type of agri-tech company that's come in. It doesn't matter if it's Appalachia. It doesn't matter if it's a company in Florida, a company in Maine. I'm always going to push for what kind of seeds are we using, what kind of trees are we using, what kinds of fertilizers are we using, how healthy is it, how fast are you growing this apple? Is this tree being planted and then the apple is growing by, ready to harvest by next Friday? I'm going to have a problem with that. We have girls that are getting their periods earlier because of different things that are in our food. So we have hormonal disruptions, thyroid disruptions, all these things are chemical related, and we know it. There is no debate. So I want to eat the same thing that Hillary Clinton, not Donald Trump. Let me retract that. That Hillary Clinton and all of the elite liberals and Republican and rich people. That's what I want to be eating, and that's what I want everybody in Appalachia to be eating. So, and I think the people who are doing it are going to try to do good. So we'll see.
Yeah.
JD, that is something as far as agriculture, that is something that you're seeing really kind of become prevalent as far as new industry for Eastern Kentucky. You've got Ramel Bradley that used to play for Kentucky. They have a project, essentially a greenhouse that they're opening in Pikeville. They already have one in Moorhead, and they're doing something similar to where they're growing food that they're going to feed and selling distribution deals across the country. It's, it's not necessarily like your farmers who are out there growing corn or, doing whatever, but they're doing something similar to that. They're just doing it in a greenhouse setting. So what do you think about Appalachia? And two, do you think that's a good industry for our area?
It's hard to find any negatives. I'm a Dawn. I think we should definitely be weary of what we're putting in our bodies. I mean, we should definitely be weary of what we're putting in our bodies. We don't want, poor people. Let's just be honest. Have been taken advantage of, and that's where your McDonald's are at. That's where the fast food is at. That's where everybody, the cheap food is. That's where it's at. They take advantage of poor people, and it's we know that to be true.
Right.
What we need to do is make sure we're getting healthy apples. And I think it's a great industry for Eastern Kentucky. It's a great use of old strip mines that are just sitting there not doing anything. And I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this right here, but guess what? Kudos to Jim Booth. Those are supposed to be 2,000 jobs created.
I agree.
Full-time jobs.
Yeah.
I've run the circle where Jim's not, some of the biggest fans aren't in my circle. But you know what? If he's going to provide 2,000 jobs, full-time jobs for this area, I'm way behind this project. I think it's great. And everybody's like, wow, it's just an apple orchard. Yeah, but those may be good paying jobs. You're paying $17, $18, $19 an hour. But those are good paying jobs for people that can make a living, man, and grow the middle class in this area. Provide insurance for people in this area. I'm all about that. I
agree. We have to give props to people who have been successful back here and are remaining here. So yes, props to Mr. Booth for that. And I'm all about this industry coming here. I just want to make sure that when I go back or when I travel to Tennessee or when I travel to Maine or wherever, that I can say, hey, I'm from Kentucky and we don't only just grow apples. We grow the best, healthiest, most nutritious apples that you could possibly get. So that's where I'm at. So if we're going to do it, let's do it.
Sure, absolutely. And I think from what I understand, they're going to put in a place, to make cider and all that stuff, which I think is, awesome. Let's do it. I'm all about it. I support it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good use of, like I said, land that's just been sitting there and not doing anything or producing anything.
Exactly.
I'm excited for it. I think it's a great opportunity.
Yep.
Well, it's funny because we have been looked down on forever by a lot of places because our energy has been coal, right? That's been our industry, has been coal. And I would think there's probably some pushback for, like an apple orchard or a solar farm, because they're working on that right now too. They're actually working on a solar farm. But I think it's great. I think the people who are in these leadership positions are looking forward, because I don't care who you are, that is the next industry, green energy. I'm not necessarily one for the Green New Deal, but as far as green energy, I think you definitely need to push forward in those areas. And I think if you're looking at solar and you're looking at agriculture, I think those are great things. So let me ask you this, and this is the part I find interesting about this is, you don't necessarily see these things in central Kentucky or places like that. Why is it being done here, JD, rather than those places? Just because we have the land, the opportunity?
I don't know, Jimmy Don. I think it's a great question. I mean, there are orchards in central Kentucky, but not this. Probably there were probably some tax incentives, just to be honest with you, that I don't know about. That these people are taking advantage of to bring in the jobs here. You know what? I'm all for those things. I think it's a great idea. If you go back to Martha Lane Collins, when she was the governor of Kentucky, when brought Toyota into Georgetown, they were full of tax incentives. I think Georgetown would go back and make that deal again tomorrow.
Heck yeah, man! That's the fastest growing housing market in Kentucky is in Georgetown.
It's been great for Georgetown. It's been great for Scott County. It's been great for Kentucky. So if I'm all about bringing tax incentives, people like Bernie Kosar, the old Cleveland Browns quarterback, come in and investing in this thing. It's just a great opportunity. I see no negatives to it at all, as long as, like Dawn said, the apples are healthy and generated in a healthy way. That's it.
Yeah.
Something I don't know anything about is Whole Foods. I don't know that I've ever walked in a Whole Foods. Dawn, where you lived in Tennessee, do they have Whole Foods?
Yes, honey, and they have not figured out that I'm not a liberal yet. So I don't want to. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my Whole Foods. But yes, that's where I do. I try to do an 80-20 rule. So I try to eat healthy 80% of the time. I got into organic after I just got educated about different chemicals and things like that from being in healthcare. But yes, there's a Whole Foods there, and that's why I try to stay away from heavy pesticide foods and stuff like that. I don't know if it's working or not, but I know that our food that we feed our kids and that we have ate is different from the food that our parents had, and we've got to figure something out like that.
I find that interesting. So you're saying like the Whole Foods, that's legit, right? That's good, fresh, organic food that's being, not with a bunch of chemicals sprayed on it, mass produced somewhere, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Whole Foods, the company.
No, the company in general. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sorry. Yes. And yes, there's a whole other side of food. JD already hit it on the head. We have the side that we feed poor people because poor people don't have a ton of money. So you can give them boxes of macaroni and cheese. You can give them an apple that's got 5 different layers of pesticide on it and then coated with wax. You can do all of that stuff. Or you can spend more money at your local Whole Foods and get something that's grown by, Harry the hippie down the road that hasn't been sprayed with anything and hopefully doesn't have a seed that's been, man-made.
But also, now let me be clear though, some of this stuff's silly. Like an organic egg, Jimmy Don.
Some of it is. I'm not saying that everybody needs to eat organic and be clean, but I'm also letting people know that there are good, solid studies backing that these chemicals, just like we have a study that broke through about makeup. You guys probably didn't see it, but Jimmy Don, you guys have daughters that wear makeup. There's makeup right now. They put a study out that has PFAs, I think, and that is a carcinogen, and it's in our makeup. And the only one that didn't have it was L'Oreal. So now it's Senator Feinstein. I think I got that right. Dianne Feinstein, and then Senator Collins, they put forward a bill trying to outlaw this. We shouldn't have to put bills outlawing chemicals. Companies should automatically not want to put chemicals in makeup, personal care products, or on food. Let's not forget Monsanto days. You've got to be careful when you trust companies that spray foods with fertilizers. So
I think that's an interesting discussion. I think that's interesting. Go ahead, JD.
Jimmy, do you know what an organic egg is?
I actually don't.
An organic egg means that the chicken wasn't in a coop. It was free ranging.
Well, it can't. There's a bunch of different definitions. And that's another thing that we have to get right in this country.
Go ahead.
Yeah, organic. Some organics are just like organic in America is really almost a waste of money, but it's still better than eating heavily processed food. It's nothing like Europe. Europe over there, you can't even get red dyes and stuff like that. But, try to get as clean as you can here and hope for the best is all you can do.
I don't know. We get our eggs up the road here. Guy's got some chickens
Those
that
are probably,
raises. And that's what we're, Jamie.
That's how I would do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get eggs from him. And then Charlotte, the lady that cleans for us, they have chickens, and we get eggs from them. And that's really kind of how we get our eggs. And then I really like that place over in Paintsville, that Griffith Family Farms. It's kind of a natural. It's a farm type place. You can go over there and buy your food. And they've got good, which I like meat. Steaks and things like that. They've got really good food.
Yeah.
Also, I think the farmers market in Inez is about to open back up or open up last week.
Yeah. And it's our local farmers, man, down there selling their stuff.
Is it Tuesdays and Wednesdays? What is that?
Usually Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday. So everybody go visit that, man, and absolutely buy local and support those people who are growing these things. Absolutely.
So, I think we all agree, agriculture industry here in Eastern Kentucky, is a good thing. We're going to take jobs no matter how we can get them. And if it's in agriculture, and our people know how to grow food. You know what I'm saying? Like our people farm. They actually know how to grow food. They know how to raise cattle. They know how to do those things. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand. So, all right. So let's get to our next topic. And this is, I want to focus more on this with what our governor did this week. And look, Andy never had a chance for me to vote for him. just because I don't like how he's handled COVID, right? So I'm not his biggest fan. All right, hold on. Just stay with me here. But he basically put in an executive order so that the state of Kentucky, the Kentucky sports team, primarily Kentucky basketball and Kentucky football, could keep up. And we are now the name, image, likeness. The players that come here can now get paid for their name, image, likeness. And he did that through executive order. So, JD, I might pause. He took care of my cats. I told you I'd go get the COVID vaccine if they made me go to the Kentucky football game. That's
cheap, bro. You're cheap.
I'm cheap. It's clearly real important to me, right? So no, but it is. That's a big change, dude, to college athletics. A big change. I mean, these kids, they have made millions upon millions of dollars for the NCAA and for these colleges over the years. And really, they got their education, which was important, and they were able to get it, paid for. But they were basically being used. They could sell a jersey with their name on the back of it. And then you had the Supreme Court come down and essentially tell the NCAA, this was on something different, essentially telling them they couldn't have it was a different ruling. But they came down and said, look, you can't tell these kids they can't have a job. You can't tell them they can't do this. And it was for a specific case in the Supreme Court. But the opinion that was written after, the two were really strong. And they were like, look, NCAA, you better figure it out and get this taken care of. So July 1st was the day that basically NCAA had to do something. So Andy Bashear went ahead and did an executive order so that our teams could keep up with these other guys, and we may land the number one player in the country because of it on the basketball side. So what do you think, JD, about number one, the name, image, likeness, and then two, the governor doing an executive order to do this? Because I'm not even sure that's legal, but I'm going to roll with him.
I just think it's way past time, man. We've had this talk. We thought California was going to do this, and I don't know what happened if they dropped the ball.
No, they're doing it. California's doing it. There's like 6 states that are set up as of July 1 that are doing this.
I'm glad to see that we're getting ahead of everybody else, man. 6 states in, and we're one of those 6. It's long overdue, man. These guys are going to classes, going to school, going to classes, going to practice, putting all this time in. It's hard to have a job. It's hard to study all that time and pass all those classes. And you have a certain expectation as a college athlete, student athlete, to keep a GPA at a certain percentage.
Right.
That these guys get paid, I think it's a good thing, man. But like Jason Rundle just said, I think it's going to be hard to regulate. It's going to have to be done. But I think it's the right step forward, and it's the way we ought to be moving forward. And I think it's way past due. Dawn,
hey guys,
Dawn, what do you think?
Oh, well, yay. I'm glad y'all asked me because I think a lot about it. But I want to jump back to the apple Attcha because I got a private message and I have some great news. The apples are good apples and they're not going to be ready to harvest in like 2 to 3 years. So that has me 150% on board.
Absolutely.
Back awesome. And thank you for the person who sent me that and let me know that we were going to be feeding good food to our people. So that's fantastic. That's such a blessing. The NCAA, well, one thing, we're slow to the table. There's 16 other states that have name, image, and likeness. So there's some facts for you boys on that. I don't have a problem with it when it comes to fairness and stuff like that. I think some of the schools that have big programs and big donors, they might have an advantage on helping these kids out. I'm not for sure, but I think these kids deserve a piece of the pie. Oh,
and it's going to benefit us.
Yeah,
like it's going to benefit Kentucky sports.
We're a big program,
Yep.
So
it is specifically going to benefit us. And I'm glad, look, I don't know that Andy Bashear even has the ability to do that. To do the executive order, I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't care. And like, what do you think about? Like, I think it was pretty smart on his part to go ahead and do it and get it done. Obviously, Cal and those guys are ready to go. But do either one of you have any pushback? Because look, they say, well, you can't. These kids, you have to allow these athletes to work. You can't treat them differently than any other student. Then on the flip side, any other student can't make the kind of money that these cats can make. Like this number one player in the country, I can't remember his name right now. Rundle, if you're watching, put it up here. I know Rundle will know. Like he was considering going to the G League, right? And now that name, image, likeness in Kentucky is a thing, he can make money here. He may come to Kentucky because he can probably make more money here than he can in the G League, and he'll get more exposure. Plus, he can get a shoe deal from Nike. It's insane.
So the only pushback I would give is that there needs to be a regulation. There needs to be a cap in order to keep fairness across the board. I mean, I want Iona compete with Kentucky. That's what I want. I don't want, three programs at the top and everybody else is pulling behind.
Right.
So I like the idea of everybody being on the same even playing field. But the regulation is going to be tough, and it's going to be a lot of man hours, a lot of time just to regulate it.
Honestly, I'm about to get bored with this topic, but honestly, I just want Kentucky to win. So that's fine. Name, image, likeness. You want me to get your autograph and tell you're a big dog, whatever. Just win a damn game. Have a winning season. Don't give me 2020. So
I like it.
I'm ready.
I like it. All right, since Dawn's getting bored, JD, we'll move.
Yes.
Let's do what the lady says, man.
That's right.
We'll jump to the next.
I like that you were just like, you know what?
I'm bored. Move on.
Let's go to the next.
Jimmy Don. Move on. Shut up and move on. All right, so staying in the state, staying with our governor. All right, so there's this thing came out this week that they are going to pay people $1,500 to go back to work. And I think you got to go back to work. You got to stay employed for maybe 6 months or so, and then you can get $1,500. Now, there's a lot of people who are really, really upset about this. And a lot of people who are like, okay, this is fine. So, Dawn, what do you think as far as, what's your take on this? Paying people to actually go back to work.
The $1,500 to pay people to go back to work. Gosh, I don't like to cuss on a Sunday, but it's complete bullshit. I mean, it is. I mean, the state is still, they need to quit. Cut it off. If you want people to go back to work, they don't need free money. So it's pretty simple. Cut them off. Tennessee cut them off, and they went back to work.
So I'm going to take the opposite. Like, I know everybody's like, they're worried about this fairness. Like, oh, I've been working this whole time. It's not fair. It's not fair. But we want people to go back to work, or we don't. So let's incentivize these people and get them back to work. And it's better for everybody.
My God, you're incentivized when you go to work.
Well, that's the argument. So why is everybody so tore up about it? Because
my God, you've got pay me.
It's just the fairness ideal. It's just the ideal being fair, and let the people. You know what? If it takes that to get them back to work, then sometimes it's worth going to debt. If I'm going to pay you $1,500 now and make $30,000 on you later, it's worth it. So
absolutely not. Stance. Take that money and give it to the people who've been in the trenches since day one. Give it to people like my husband who have wore face shields, 2 and 3 masks, been Lysoling themselves down at the beginning of it. Give it to the people who've been showing up. Take that money and give it to them.
So I've been one of those people too, but
you too.
But it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me that that's what it's taking to get people back to work.
Yeah.
Because that tax money needs to go back in.
But you say that you're worried about fairness on him. Isn't he only giving it to like the first 15,000?
15,000.
What happens to all the other people? What happens to the 15,001 person who goes back to work? They don't get the 1,500. Either we're going to give it to everybody or not. So not is my vote.
It's not. But
Bashear's pandering. He's pandering, hoping people get votes. That's just all it is.
It's not
but
because
I love you, JD.
He knew that was going to be a pushback. He knew it was going to be a huge pushback from the right. These people who are call themselves
I'm libertarian.
Right. But physically, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying people on the right are physically conservative. But fiscal conservatives need to understand that if I spend $1,500 up front, and pull in $7,000 in taxes because of that $1,500, then it's money well spent.
And liberals need to understand that when you say that you're worried about fairness, you need to be worried about fairness about everybody. So either you're going to give $1,500 to the first 15,000, or you're going to give it $1,500 to everybody who goes back to work in the next 10 years. Makes no sense. There doesn't need to be no $1,500 given to anybody. You need to go back to work. You need to get that little, what are they getting? Unemployment, an extra $300 is what they're accepting from the feds. Is that correct here in Kentucky?
That is correct.
They're getting that on top of what they're getting from the state. Cut it out. Cut the federal part out. You can't give people money and then expect them to go to work.
But that's exactly what he's going to do. That's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to put these people back to work. They're going to pay taxes, and he's going to give them a bonus for doing that. It makes perfect sense to me.
Giving them bonuses, but not giving people in the hospital and our cops and all them bonuses. Bullshit.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that either. I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with what he's doing on the front end. 6 months from now, he may do the same exact thing on the opposite end.
I pay a lot of taxes up here, so
Sure.
I don't like it. But
So let me play devil's advocate here real quick. Sure. As much as I'm enjoying watching Dawn yell at JD, as much as I'm enjoying this right now, no, let me play devil's advocate. There are studies out there that show that incentive, not just cutting people off, does not get them back to work.
Right.
There are studies that show that. I'm sure there's studies that show that cutting them off gets them back to work. Now, I personally agree with Dawn on this. Like, look, and here's why. Number one, okay, we've got this money from the federal government, and people are saying, well, if we don't use this money, then we just lose it. We might as well use it and get the tax dollars spent here in the state. That's a fair argument, okay? Fine. Problem that I have with it is that ain't nothing free. And so this $1,500 that they're going to give these people, I told JD, we did the math, or I did the math, that all that money that people were being given through stimulus money, for every $1,400 you got, we, the taxpayer, would have to pay back $22,000 to pay that.
Right.
So that's my problem with it, is it ain't free. And getting these people back to work, I just assume, fine. We wait 3 months and then everybody goes back to work in September when all the benefits are cut off. We, the taxpayer, don't have to pay $22,000 for every $1,500 that's given out.
You can find a study that backs up anything, but really, I'm all about encouraging people to go back to work. They should want to go back on their own, because $1,500 is not a ton of money, but it's still money that I don't want to give to encourage somebody to go back to work when you should already want to. I don't register it.
But I push back against that. I think most people want to go back to work. Most people are more satisfied when they're working. And most people have a sense of purpose when they're working. I mean, right. I don't think there's a study out there that shows anything differently than that. When people have purpose, they have better lives. Their employment's better. Yeah. The employment rate is better. So why not incentivize them? Why not let's get them back to work? Hold on now. Even if you don't want to spend that money, if that gets people back to work, like I said, if you spend $1,500 up front and you make $15,000 on the back end of that, then you win.
But still, we're talking about $1,500. Why don't he take that kind of money or these grand ideas and talk about the kind of people who haven't even went back to work? Make their jobs better to where they want to go back to begin with. You know what I mean? Instead of throwing them $1,500 one time, maybe go to the company and go, okay, if it's restaurants, for instance, if it's waiters and waitresses that don't want to go back to work, then maybe we need to look at the reason of why they don't want to go back to work to begin with.
No, I think your point is well said, but I feel like that's a totally different thing. That should we spend this money on something different? That's a totally different, could he spend this money in a better way? Absolutely, probably should. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But do I have a problem with him spending the $1,500 to incentivize these people to go back to work? I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't kill me. I just don't like it.
It's kind of like that Chris Rock, Bring the Pain, I think it was called, back in the day when, a guy was bragging about, I take care of my kids. Well, fool, you're supposed to take care of your kids. Mm-hmm. Same thing with working. Oh, I'm going to go back. Well, you're supposed to go work. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. I shouldn't have to pay you $1,500 to go work. And JD, and the thing is where I push back on you in what you said is that if these people felt better and they wanted to work, they would go to work right now, because people can't find people to work because they're making too much money sitting on their ass at the house.
Right.
It's, and until that changes, people are going to continue to sit until September. And then you've got businesses out here that are struggling to get employees. They can't run their business.
I don't think the unemployment rate reflects that, though, man. I think the unemployment rate shows that people are going back to work.
Nobody is working because we keep giving free money out. It's like my kids. They're always going to be in here on the payroll if I keep handing it out. Now, when they get older, they're in their teens right now, but when they get older, that's going to have to end, and they got to stand up on their own 2 feet. It's the same way with the government. As long as they keep handing out free money, people's going to sit at home, and I don't blame them.
But I just don't think that's true. I just don't think most studies have shown, and I think almost all studies have shown, most people don't want to sit at the house and work. Most people don't want to sit at the house. Most people want to be employed and have a sense of purpose. Most people are more fulfilled when they have a job they go to every day. And so I just push back against all that.
Well, I mean, like I said, I kind of stand on what I said was if I think you're probably right. I would be bored out of my skull if I didn't work every day, right? I'd be bored to death. I couldn't stand it. But that ain't true for everybody, man. They're just not, because if so, they would be back at work right now. There wouldn't be this big employee shortage that people are struggling with.
But most people, a lot of people, man, I know we haven't in this area, we haven't worried about this COVID thing at fucking all. We don't care. But a lot of people have. I know people who have shut in, man, since March of 2019, and that's been a much bigger effect than what we've given it credit for. And I think as we come out of this thing, like we are now, I think you're going to see, and I think you've already seen the unemployment rate start to drop because people are ready to go back out into the workforce.
I know we disagree. I'm sorry. I know that we disagree on the $1,500, how he's spending it, but we really don't disagree on incentivizing people to work. Like I said, if we're talking about a base of employees that are not making a ton of money, then maybe we need to look at that, is my argument. So I'm kind of, the $1,500, rewarding people because they're on unemployment, no. I think that could go somewhere else. But if you want to help these people realize that they need to go back to work, give them something to go back to.
Sure.
I think that's fair.
And also, just to agree with that a little more, $1,500 is a lot to a lot of people. It's not a lot of money, but to some people, that's a lot of money. When you got kids at the house, you've been on unemployment for 6-7 months. $1,500 is a lot of money.
And the fairness part doesn't bother me. Life isn't fair. It's just not. I haven't stopped working, like not one day. Like I haven't stopped. And
I did. I did for about 3 months, and I about shot myself.
Yeah, and I haven't stopped working. I'm not going to get the $1,500. Fine, I don't care. It's just, I just don't think you should. I kind of agree with Don. Look, dude, if you want to go back to work, go back to work. You shouldn't have to need $1,500. If you want to feel better about yourself, and you want to work, go back to work. There are jobs. There are jobs right now. Mm-hmm. You can go get a job, but people aren't because, and like Don said, fairly so, that why would they? They're making too much. I think I like what Don said. Give them a reason to go back, but don't hand them $1,500. Go to
it's. I think a lot of it's about waiters and waitresses. It's time to face the conversation and to have the conversation in this country about, are we paying these people well enough? Now, with that being said, there's I read an article the other day. It was Wolfgang Puck, I believe, and they get paid well. Those waiters and waitresses do, but
that's way different than the.
But it's way different. Yeah, it's way different than, Arby's or something like absolutely. That. We need to take care of them because we know that those companies are making money. So I'm all about people going back to work, but I'm also all about people going back to work and being appreciated and wanting to go back because their employer appreciated them. But when it comes to $1,500 to pay people to get off of unemployment, absolutely not. I would much rather see that go to the nurses, the doctors, the researchers, the pharmacies, all those people, essential people who are on the ground the entire time when we're all holed up in the house. So that's where I'm at.
So I actually disagree with a lot of that. Mm-hmm. I actually agree with a whole lot of it. But the problem is we've only got so much money, right? So like we
evidently
said,
not.
No. We do, because we're only saying we're going to do it, get to the first 1,500, right? Mm-hmm. So we're incentivizing 1,500 people to go to work. So how we choose who 1,500 people that is, how we choose 1,500 doctors or 1,500 policemen or 1,500 fire department or 1,500 utility workers. How we choose that? So I think he's just doing the best he can, man.
I think cut them off and they'll go back to work.
I like it. Let's move on to the next topic. Gaddy, I do want to throw this up here real quick because it's rare that it happens on this show.
Yeah, because we live in finance.
Well, it is what it is. But when JD gets a win, I want to give him a win. I want to celebrate the win. I love JD. I mean, look,
nothing but love for him.
Yes, I like that, Don.
Yeah, nothing but love for him.
Yeah.
I tell him all the time.
Yeah, I love this. This is so fun.
All right, so next up.
Yes, I'm drinking another beer.
You savage. All right, next up, Britney Spears wants free Brittany. Free Brittany. It's toxic.
Dawn, what you have?
Dawn, talk to us. Talk to us about Brittany.
I don't know a ton about it, but I do know that evidently she's under a conservatorship with her dad. She went crazy a few years ago, shaved her head, clearly had some mental problems going on. And they have locked this girl down. She's 39, 40 years old now, and give her credit card. We got bigger fish to fry, and let her go. If she wants to blow all of her money, have at it, girl. Let her go.
So it's weird. Like, I feel both ways about this, and which is maybe, a shock to you both. Is she responsible? Like, so when her dad took over her conservatorship, how do you say that word? Conservatorship?
You got it. Mm-hmm.
Her estate was like worth $1.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's worth like $137 million.
Mm-hmm. Or it's like 60, I think, 60 million. It's not as much as it should be.
Right.
I agree. She needed it at first.
She's been paying him like well to run things, or he's been paying himself well through her estate. Right.
Right. No, I agree she needed it at first, but now she's begging to be let out. At some point, we have to listen to the actual person.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. That's where I'm struggling. Because I see the human part of it. Like, she's the one earning this money. She's the one worth this money. She's the one going out there and singing. She's the one that went there dancing, shaking her ass,
right,
carrying the snakes around, whatever she's doing.
Right.
But if you're not physically responsible, does it matter how much money you make, guys?
Well, I mean, it's her money.
It is. Yeah.
It's her. It's her money.
It is. I don't know. But
yeah, it's her money. I mean, the girl has an IUD in. Do you guys know what that is? An intrauterine device. It's birth control. She can't even get it out without daddy's approval.
So I think it's way overreach. I think it's a way overreach.
It is. It is. It may have been. It served its purpose. I'm with you. It seems to have served its purpose. I mean, I don't like people's lives being dictated in the least, but it seems like it served its purpose. But now she is 39, 40 years old. She's begging to be let out of it. Let her go. Give her a credit card. We've got other things going on.
Yeah. So I know. I agree with all that. Like, it's hard for me. But there's a reason they went to court, and the judge was like, "No, you're not."
Yeah, 10 years ago.
You're not mentally stable.
Yeah.
And great. I mean, she may be mentally stable enough now. I don't know. I don't think anybody here does. But there's a reason, like the judge felt the way he did and kept her in that conservatorship.
I agree, and
so
she may need to stay in it. Yeah, she may need to stay in some form of it. Yeah. But I mean,
I feel like her personal life is like the IUD is way overreach.
And she says she can't spend X amount of money, yet she earns her money. That seems crazy to me. Let her have a credit card, go shopping. If daddy wants to control her, he needs to meet her in the middle because she's got a big fan base.
She doesn't live a terrible life. You want to bet she don't live a terrible life? I bet she lives.
Oh, for sure. It's a privilege problem,
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely.
So,
yeah, she's fine.
Man. So I agree with you, and I do. But I also see that, this is a deal. She's made so much money that she could change her. It's a generational change, right? Mm-hmm. For her children, her grandchildren, and that may be what her father's looking at. We know he's been painted the way he's been painted in the media. We know the way he's been painted, and it would be easy for me to say, you know what, give Brittany her money back, and I guess that's probably what we all expected to have. But there's a reason that this guy's having to step in and
giving her money back and giving her control of her life doesn't need to be giving her everything. It doesn't mean that she just suddenly can't go and be treated by her doctors and stuff like that. She'll still be getting access to healthcare, mental health care professionals. So, I mean, they can fix it that way. There's different ways of, controlling this girl. But to me, it just seems like it served its purpose.
Sure. I mean, I get that. So, yeah. And
she just seems like a workhorse for the dad for me.
She kind of does.
But that's how she's going to be painted. That's how.
It's just what it seems like to me. I may be wrong.
You know this as good as anybody. How is the media going to paint the person they don't like?
Sure.
It's ridiculous.
Sure, I agree on that too.
We don't know. We just don't have enough information, in my opinion.
And have you guys watched her documentary? I mean, we haven't even touched base on why is Brittany in this position. I mean, the constant misogyny that she had to deal with, and sexualization and things of that nature. It's something to behold. So it'd crack anybody. And if you've looked at her Instagram, girl's clearly got, probably a few little issues going on. So I still think give her credit card, give her whatever, loosen up on the control and let her have a bit of life. She's almost 40.
I agree. I don't think we can say anything more about that except hashtag free Brittany.
Yeah. I'm just,
or free Brittany a little bit.
A little bit. Hashtag free Brittany a little.
A little bit.
Let's not break the bank here on Brittany. Let's.
I don't want to bring the conversation down, but I think there was something that happened this week that we really need to talk about. And in Miami, there was essentially I guess it was like a condominium or a several story building that collapsed. And it was, I guess, in the night when there was a bunch of people there, maybe sleeping. I know there at one time, forgive me, but one time there was like 4 confirmed dead and 150 missing. And that's really sad. Like, that's awful. And JD, I want to start with you here. What struck me about this is 10 years ago, 15 years ago, this would have been the biggest story in the country. Like, this is a little girl fell in a well. And for a week straight, that's all they did, right?
Yeah.
But this is horrific. Like, this is a tragedy. I mean, this is awful. And nobody talks about it because everybody wants to get on there and argue with each other about politics. And it bothered me for some reason. And like, I was like, dude, this is awful. They should be talking about this nonstop. Like, what is the deal? What do you think?
It is a tragedy. And I guess some of the inspection records show that there was some cracking going on underneath.
I think the owners are in a lot of trouble.
And so, like you said, there could be a lot of liability going on. The owners could definitely be in a lot of trouble. I'm sure there's conspiracy theories out there going on about this thing, and I just don't know, man. It was just, I don't know. I think it was just a terrible accident, man, that happened. And then court enforcement code. I swear I'm not buzzed at all. Code enforcement, it's got to be stricter. So that's one, like the regulation thing. Sometimes regulation is a good thing.
Yeah.
But they've got to step up and do their job, right? And that's where the code enforcement has to step up and do their job. There's people's lives on the line. There's a building that could fall down and collapse and kill, hundreds of people. And it's just a tragedy, man. I don't know what else.
Yeah. Dawn? Oh gosh, it's heartbreaking. I mean, I couldn't imagine what the victims' families are going through, still waiting for their loved ones to be, hopefully found in all the rubble. We definitely need to pray for our country, pray for Miami, pray for those families. I have no problem saying that I think the inspectors' licenses, the owners, everybody needs to be pulled up into the carpet. That's what we call it when you had to go in the CEO office at the hospital. And let me tell you, pull them up on the carpet and let's see why we let all these little grievances go to the wayside, especially when you're in an area that has to be beat down by hurricanes and flooding and all that stuff. You would think that you would be enforcing these things constantly. So I think it's a tragedy, a definite stain on our country for that. That's awful.
Yeah, it's really sad. And JD, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week with, I'm with you when it comes to the regulation of those things. Just like our water department, we were talking about our water. Mm-hmm. A big reason that the water district here got in such disrepair is because the regulatory authorities did not do their job. The people downstate are just as guilty as the people locally who were operating this because they did not do their job. They would call the district to the carpet. They would yell at them and say, here's what you need to do, and never follow back up. Yeah. Ever. Right. Now, we have a public service commission now that's not doing that. Like, they're all over me all the time. They're constantly on it. It's after the fact, though, right? It's after the fact, but at the same time, I agree. There's some regulation that is good. And I think when it comes to our water districts and our utilities and things like that, I don't really mind the oversight. Right. But the oversight has to do their job. Sure. It can't just be there in name only. They have to do, and I think that's probably because based on what I read, and I own a lot of apartment buildings, I know what this looks like. Rundle right here, Rundle owns a bunch of apartments and a bunch of he's in real estate too. How many buildings fell down? Building had problems, but an inspector wouldn't turn a blind eye if they thought it was going to actually collapse. I mean, how many buildings a year just fall down like this? That's true too. That's actually true.
But that's the point though, right? Because most people do their jobs.
Well, I think they said there maybe had been an earthquake too, and it basically out in the ocean. It basically just did enough to that finally did it.
Right.
And we're talking about, inspectors and stuff like that. Inspections.
JD.
I'm sorry.
Words are hard. It's fine. I know.
Yeah. But I worked on the ground, man. And there's no way I would do that without inspectors, without having to meet criteria for
Right.
MSHA or, because guess what? If it weren't for those inspectors and MSHA doing the regulations they had, I mean, they would run you dog dry. I mean, it's hard to tell what you might have to do.
Maybe we have a bridge in Tennessee that connects to Arkansas, got a giant crack. They shut down the interstate, and they come to find out that crack had been there for years. And somebody had been inspecting that bridge for years and never been caught. So I don't know, but I know that somebody needs to be held accountable on this building for sure.
How many people died?
In the Miami building?
Yeah.
I think it's like 148 are still missing.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This makes me laugh. Which I really wish we would talk about this. We may talk about this next week with McAfee and the conspiracy stuff and him dying over there in that Spanish prison or wherever he was at. So, I would love to get into that. We don't have time. So, the last topic of the day, and I'm going to sit back and let Dawn and JD work here and get my enjoyment watching Dawn dress down JD.
Which topic is it?
Dawn's
like, wait a minute.
1,600 more.
I know.
Surprise, Dawn, surprise. No, I want to talk about Biden and guns and what he said this week with the, he wants to use some of the COVID money to go back and start paying the police because crime is rising all over the place with the bad phrase that they put out there. And JD and I actually agree on this, that defund the police didn't actually mean defund the police, but it was the phrasing that was used.
It's a clunky phrase.
And it's a bad phrase. So, Dawn, let's start with you this time. Talk about what Biden has done.
Trying to always step back on what the Democrats say is, it's starting to become entertaining. They were the ones that said defund the police. Matter of fact, there's 15% of the Democrat Party that wants to abolish the police, not just defund them. So you see the results from it. We've defunded or moved money around, and now we've got crime skyrocketing. So yeah, I've got some things to say about President Biden and how he's going on about guns. The ATF nominee that he just put forth, anybody know about him?
He's an anti-gun guy, isn't he?
He most certainly is. He's a lobbyist. Mm-hmm. He's an anti-gun lobbyist. That's what he does. So, now this goes for any president, Republican or Democrat. I really think that we should tread lightly on picking people who have political agendas and putting them at the head of these government agencies. That's concerning to me. As far as having to put money back in to, getting police and stuff like that, well, is anybody shocked that cops are quitting and retiring at the highest rates ever? I mean, they have been put through what? For how many years? We've demoralized them. We've demonized them. We've got them writing op-eds and putting it in the New York Times. Did you guys see the female cop that said, this is why I'm quitting, because you guys are not respecting us? We have to have law enforcement. We can train and we can talk about things that they need to do better, but we have to have them. We cannot constantly beat these guys down and tell them 1 minute that we can't stand you, and then the next minute hit 911 every time that we have a neighbor trespassing in their yard. It makes zero sense, and this lays at the Democrat Party's feet.
So when Dawn says that 15% of the Democratic Party wants to get rid of the police, well, she also is saying that 85% of the people want to keep the police.
Actually, I'm saying 15% want to abolish it, and
right,
the other
85% want to keep it, though, right?
No, there's 70% of you that want to reform it, because you don't like defund, so we're going for refund. So that leaves another 20% that I don't know. I don't have stats on, so I guess they are for it, because there are normal Democrats that want to keep the cops. So
85% of the Democrats want to keep police around in some shape or form, even if that means to reform, and I'm one of those people that want to reform the police department. I don't believe the police department ought to be militarized. I don't believe they need AK-47 or AR-15s or are these big things. I think we ought to cut back those funds, and we ought to make.
Social workers go out.
No, I think we ought to educate young people, and let's invest in young people. Let's invest in 5, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and let's make sure the money goes toward them, and let's make sure they're well educated and well knowledgeable, and they're getting ahead of life. And that's going to, down the road, it's going to take care of. You don't have to build. You can save money on building prisons. You can save money on prison time. You can save money on jail time. You can save money on transporting people to jail. You can save money on police personnel.
Sure.
So that's where I'm at with defund the police is a clunky phrase, but defund the police and put them into the social programs that make a major difference is something I'm way for. Absolutely.
Nobody has any problem investing in kids, but
they do though. Yeah, they do.
Investing in your kids is free. I tell my kids, if you get pulled over, don't freak out on the cops. Don't break the law. Don't do this. It's free. It's free for me to say things like that. So that starts with the parents, and that starts at the house. It's pretty easy to raise kids that don't break the law, don't resist arrest, don't go crazy to where we have to even have these issues arise to where we have to then look at our cops and think they're doing something wrong every time they arrest someone. Video them every time that they arrest somebody. I mean, we cannot continuously think that we're going to go down this path of attacking LEOs and then think we're going to sit in the country to where we have a low crime rate. The results are in. We have spent time and time again defunding police. We have our results. We even have a Democrat president who's acknowledging that and going, now we need to get more cops in here. And I think that people need to think long and hard before they sign up to being a cop.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I agree, because cops are put in a very precarious situation.
They can't win.
And you're not going to find any disagreement with me on that. Yeah. But, and I think Michael Harrison is making the point right here, good training is different than more training. Teaching cops to de-escalate a situation is way different than finding a cop who's willing to drag anybody and everybody to jail.
Nobody's arguing that. What we're arguing is defunding them altogether.
But so that's why I'm saying it's a clunky phrase, and you're not going to get argued from me from that, because I'm not saying defund the police altogether either. I'm saying let's not make them the military. Let's not make them the army. Let's not make them the Marines. They should be the cops, and that's who they should be.
I agree with both of you in one sense or another. I think that the fact the Democrats have said over and over and over, defund the police, until it got taken as actually them wanting to defund the police. It's a bad phrase, and a lot of them meant it. Not all of them, but a lot of them meant it. I think defunding the police. No, it's much higher. 15% are your radical left, your AOCs, those people who want to get rid of the police altogether. They want to abolish the police. Like they don't think we should have police at all.
That's 15%. Is what she said.
The other 85%, like 75% of that 85%, want some kind of reform. Now that is usually shrinking them down. And I personally think that's the wrong approach. You have people right now, like I said, crime has skyrocketed all over this country because you don't want, and Rundle had just said, Louisville's like 250 cops short right now. Well, crime's going to increase. That's what's going to happen. I think you need to invest in these guys, A, through what you pay them, and B, through training. They get really zero training. They go to the academy, and then they come out. And I think there has to be a real focus on their mental health. Right. Not everybody can be a cop. Not everybody should be a cop. But there's a hell of a bunch of good ones out there, and they shouldn't get drugged through the mud like they have for the past year and a half. And JD agrees with us on this, Don, 100%.
Yeah. No, I know he does. Yeah, I thought we were going to argue guns, not cops.
Oh, yeah. What happened to guns?
Well, let's go back to guns. Yeah, we do that. We go off on tangents. Let's argue guns.
But yeah, well, there is no argument. I think that we should have guns. I don't think it should be, I think the Second Amendment should be left in place. We already do background checks, so forth and so on. Blame everything on mass shootings, if you will, but the majority of gun deaths is suicide by handguns. Yes, so now we have Biden putting forth an ATF guy who wants to see assault weapons go away. So what's your all's thinking on that?
So, have a hard time disagreeing with anything you said there. What the problem is, we've not really come up with any real legislation that's going to really prevent any of these shootings.
Right.
Because people who are going to get a hold of those guns have got a hold of the guns, and they're going to continue to do so. Like you said, there's like 32,000 people die from gun wound shots in a year, and 22,000 of them die from self-inflicted gun wound shots.
And now there's homicide.
And there's homicide. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer, but I know what we're doing is not working. My kids, if my kid got killed in a school shooting, I don't know how, I'm not sure how I'd react. I'm not sure what I'd say. I'm not sure. I do know I'd go murder fucking somebody, though.
Yeah.
But I think what you just said is the key. Somebody. A gun's not just going to roll in and start shooting somebody.
No, that's
a mental health. It's a mental health aspect.
But it also, man,
to me,
but it is. You're exactly right. But when you give mental health people who are struggling with mental health access to a gun, and they get their hands on a gun, you can see the results. And so I don't think. I just don't know what the answer is. I just don't think that we've come up with regulation that's going to really focus and take care of, where the school shootings and things are coming from. That's the problem.
Where I always stand with everything is I want the same thing that the rich politicians and celebrities get. So as long as Biden's family is being protected by guns and Biden's kids are being protected by guns, then I feel like I should have a right to do the same for mine. So,
but that's always going to be the case? As long as we selling guns to people on the street, that's always going to be the case. I don't know. It's a tough situation. I just don't think there's a black and white. I don't think it's a black and white answer, man. I just don't.
No, but Dawn's right though, because they're saying that we shouldn't have guns.
I agree.
That's
what they say. They're saying we shouldn't have guns, but then they're being protected by people with guns.
Yeah.
Was he talking about this particular type of gun that keeps
being
used?
He was probably talking about that one particular type of gun.
He's talking about
they asked him.
He's talking about a particular piece of gun that keeps on being used over and over in a school shooting situation, in a mass shooting situation, and there's a reason why that gun keeps getting used over and over, because it's readily available and it's easy to use.
But it doesn't mean that everybody who owns one is a murderer, or that everybody who owns one gets one jerked away. It gets tiring getting punished for what other people do all the time. So, and if we really worry about gun deaths, then the AR-15s are the last gun we need to worry about, because gun deaths primarily come from handguns. Boom. So let's deal with that. That is suicide. That is mental health. So all of that needs to go over there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I can't disagree with that.
No, fair enough. So look, we're at our hour here, JD. Should we just ask Dawn to come back again next week?
It's always the fastest hour.
I think we'll just add Dawn to the podcast, bro.
I think should we just add? Are we going to propose to Dawn right here?
Dawn,
it's a proposal.
Dawn, will you join us on the Just That Bourbon podcast?
I will.
That's my girl.
We have to start covering women's issues, though. We've got to start hitting some of that too. We're going to be talking about sex. We're going to be talking about birth control. Absolutely. It's going to get uncomfortable for you guys.
We'll talk about my sex life. It's going to cover. It don't happen. So.
Well, that's
Jesus.
right.
Really, Dawn, you're no longer invited. If that's what we're talking about is JD's sex life, I retract my proposal.
Look, we're going to talk about all things that humans are doing, good, bad, and the ugly.
I like it. I like those conversations. I really do. I like having a good, strong woman's opinion, because I'm raising girls, man. And one thing I preach to my girls is, look, and I know having a good husband is important, but you need to be able to take care of you. Like I preach independence to my girls, taking care of you. You got to take care of your business first and foremost. And to be able to have a good, strong woman's opinion on here is something desperately needed.
Listen to me. That scares me to death. Well, the last thing I want my daughter to do is to depend on somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Right. And make sure your girls get educated or have some type of skill set.
So it's weird. Because I got two sons, and I'm not worried about that, because that's not the expectation, right?
Right.
The expectation is you go out and you take care of somebody. But with your daughter, it's almost like it's woven into what we do around here. It's like your expectation is get married at 19, you have a kid at 20, and I want my daughter to take a different path than that. I want her to be self-sufficient. I want her to be comfortable in her own skin. I want her to understand that all these things are natural, and I want her to understand that you are smart enough, you're good enough to go do and take on the world.
Yes, we've got to quit defining what we think that girls should do. and what women should do. We're really not a commodity. I mean, and we've been treated that way this entire time, and it's got to change. And it changes with MEN. So how men are treating women is where it changes. It needs to change with how we raise our sons. And it's not this feminist rant we're going on. It's just girls need to be able to be educated. They need to be able to do all the same things the boys do. You know, one thing I have a big problem with, and here we go, we're going to be late. Do we have to get off?
No,
we'll save it till next weekend.
Girl.
One of the biggest things that I cannot stand is men can get out here and screw everything that moves. But if a girl gets out here and has more than 2 or 3 sex partners, she's considered a whore. That has always blowed my mind. Never understood it. And that's because men built that society up. Men run that, not women. Men do. Men do not own sex.
Dawn, I'm here to tell you that JD's a whore. I'm just
and I'm not for promiscuity by any means. I've stayed married my entire adult life. I mean, I'm on my second husband, but still, I'm not for promiscuity. I'm not encouraging that. I think that women need to have a role in the house of raising the kids and so forth and so on. There's respect for men that we need to have, but when it comes to our bodies, women need to be able to look at their man and go, you know what? This isn't all about you. You've got to meet my need. You've got to meet my needs too.
What I tell my girls is this. I'm like, look, you don't need a man to take care of you. You can take care of yourself. What Amy and I try to do is take care of each other. And as long as we do that, then we're going to be fine. She has her, her independence. She does her thing. We take care of each other and we raise kids together and we have a great marriage. I mean, and that's all I want my kids. I want my kids to have what I have. I want my girls to have a man that thinks of them the way that I think about their mom.
Mine are too.
I need to address this real quick.
Okay, sorry.
Because Jimmy don't call me a whore.
I did not. You didn't hear that.
I mean, who doesn't look? I mean, who is it? 5'11", 285 pounds is not a whore.
Not everybody looks that good, JD. Not everybody rocks that 5'11", 285 as pretty as you do. What can I say?
As long as it's 2 single consenting adults, people can live their lives the way they want to. My place, though, with females, whether it comes with sexual health or employment or whatever, is that we deserve a place at the table with all those topics.
Absolutely.
So that's my only argument, and men need to pay attention to that. Look, we all have daughters and sons, and I raise my boys to know that, hey, girls get periods. So once a month, you need to be able to respect that, be patient, be kind, get her ibuprofen, whatever she needs. When I was growing up, you didn't talk about your period. You didn't say a thing about it. And then it would be like if you needed your husband or whatever to go and get you pads, you guys act like we're asking you to go murder somebody. It's pads. It's a natural bottle. Unless you are not with the girl, you're going to get somebody who menstruates because that's what we do.
Right.
So
I think that's the element. That's the element that you're going to bring to our podcast. So we're looking forward to exploring moving forward.
Looking forward to talking about periods.
I'm so looking forward to that. I cannot wait.
Feminism and periods.
Yeah. And let's make sure that we know that everybody knows I am pro man, and I think we need to take care of our men in every aspect. By all means, I'm not saying that we need to beat our men down. I'm just saying we need to let our women rise up a little bit too.
Right.
Yeah, got no problem with that at all. You ready? All right, guys. What a show, man. How much fun is that? Don, how much fun is that?
I know. Now, look, what are we doing next weekend?
Yes, Aaron, she's a regular now.
Yeah, because it's July 4th. So what are we doing?
Yeah, I will not be available.
I won't either. So you want a different day or you want to wait?
What do you want to do, Jay? What do you want me to do? I ain't got
no family. Like, nobody cares about me. So,
well, look, it's my birthday.
Let's go to the 5th.
So the family's wanting to do something for me. And we'll talk about it after the show. We'll figure it out.
Figure that out. Y'all let me know. Well, thanks, guys. I'm part of the family.
Yep. Don, do not leave this time. Don just left last week. Like JD and I were going to talk to her after the show was done. And it's just gone. I'm out. You go pee. I got Don here now. I don't care if you're here.
Can everybody see me? I got so many complaints that people couldn't see me.
No, you look great. Yeah, you were a little dark last week, but you look great, and I love the background. It looks cool. Yeah.
And then I had the girls ask me where my necklace. My necklace came from Tiffany's last week, I don't have a necklace on this time, and these earrings are H&M. So
This came from
people ask me that.
ukteamshop.com.
It looks good.
Thanks.
JD,
No.
well, JD hasn't been raptured, but he's gone.
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, he's got to go to the restroom. He drinks like a savage. What can I tell you? On the show, it's just who he is. So, all right, guys, we will wrap this up. We'll let JD come back here.
No. Listen, you can tell you're all from East Kentucky. It took y'all 11 minutes to wrap this shit up.
I know, right?
Well, look, it takes a long time to say bye.
Let's hug. Let's do the hug outside.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's what I tell. Somebody said, "Are you not going to get up?" Like we were leaving Amy's dad's today, and they were like, "You're not getting up?" I'm like, "No, dude, because we're going to be here for 15 more minutes." And so when Amy gets in the car, that's when I get up. That's when I get up to go. So, all right, guys, we will sit here and talk all evening. So we're going to wrap this thing up. We appreciate you coming and spending a little bit of your time with us this Sunday evening. Of course, you can find us over at iTunes, Podbean, which is where we launched the podcast from, Amazon Music, Spotify, wherever you can get podcasts. You can find the Just Add Bourbon podcast there. JD runs our social media page. Everybody welcome Dawn to the Just Add Bourbon podcast now as a full-time guest host. So,
yay!
So
stir the pot.
Stir the pot. I love it. So, as I always in this thing, from myself, from JD, and now our girl Dawn, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it always gets a little bit better. Free Brittany!